Hello, and welcome to this Sunday edition of Total New Hampshire on WRMK News 12. I'm your host, Riley King. It's Sunday, August 23rd, 2026. Let's get started now. First up, Sullivan claims momentum in New Hampshire 01 Democratic primary. Democratic Maura Sullivan says her campaign is gaining momentum after taking the lead in the latest Saint Anselm College poll of the 1st Congressional District Democratic primary. Sullivan credits grassroots support and endorsements from local officials. She is also pushing back against questions surrounding donations from people who have contributed to AIPAC, saying there was no coordination involved. Shaheen vows to keep fighting as NH01 race tightens. Meanwhile, Stefany Shaheen says her campaign is taking nothing for granted as the Democratic primary for the 1st Congressional District tightens. Shaheen says she's encouraged by support from firefighters, teachers, and electrical workers. She also emphasized healthcare in the closing weeks of the campaign, saying she supports Medicare for all, while also favoring a public health insurance option. Pappas picks up State Employees Association endorsement. In the U.S. Senate race, Democratic Chris Pappas has picked up another major labor endorsement. The State Employees Association announced its support for Pappas during an event at SEIU Local 1984 in Concord. Union leaders pointed to his work on collective bargaining issues in Congress. Pappas has also received backing from Teamsters Local 633 and New Hampshire Building and Construction Trades Council. New poll gives Democrats early edge in New Hampshire. In new Saint Anselm College poll shows Democrats with an early advantage heading toward the fall elections. Democrats lead Republicans on the generic congressional ballot 52% to 41%. The survey also gives Democrats an advantage with voters on the economy and affordability. The poll surveyed more than 1,400 New Hampshire voters ahead of September 8th state primary. Pappas leads Senate primary. In the Democratic U.S. Senate primary, Chris Pappas holds a sizable lead over Karshma Mansouri. The Saint Anselm poll puts Pappas at 59% and Mansouri at 28%. On the Republican side, former Senator John E. Sununu leads former Senator Scott Brown 54% to 24%. The poll also shows Pappas ahead of both Republicans in hypothetical general election matchups. Sullivan and Sheen locked in tight New Hampshire 01 race. The Democratic race for New Hampshire 1st Congressional District remains extremely close. Maura Sullivan leads the Saint Anselm poll at 26% support, just 2 points ahead of Stefany Shaheen at 24%. On the Republican side, Anthony DiLorenzo leads the field with 30%. Pollsters say increased campaign advertising appears to be influencing the race. Goodlander commanding New Hampshire 0-2 lead. In the 2nd Congressional District, Democratic Congresswoman Maggie Goodlander holds a commanding primary lead. The Saint Anselm poll puts Goodlander at 66% compared to 17% for challenger Paige Batchman. On the Republican side, Lily Tang Williams holds Victor Orlando by a wide margin of 53 to 7%. Ayotte leads early governor's race polling. Governor Kelly Ayotte holds an early advantage in the race for governor. The Republican incumbent leads Democratic challenger Cindy Warmington at 49% to 38% in the latest Saint Anselm College poll. Pollster Neil Levesque described Ayotte as a popular governor and says she enters the general election campaigning in a strong position. Economy and affordability among top voter concerns. New Hampshire voters continue to focus on the economy and the cost of living. The Saint Anselm survey gives Democrats a 46 to 39% advantage over Republicans on handling the economy, and a 48 to 36% advantage on affordability. Elections and democracy ranked as the top issue overall, followed by the economy, inflation, and affordability. Trump approval at 37% in New Hampshire poll. President Donald Trump approval rating stands at 37% among respondents in the Saint Anselm poll. 62% have an unfavorable view of the president and disapproving of his job performance. Pollster Neil Levesque says Trump's numbers, along with voter concerns surrounding the war in Iran, could affect Republican candidates elsewhere on the New Hampshire ballot. Poll offers early look at the 2028 presidential field. The same survey is offering an early glimpse at New Hampshire voter preferences for the 2028 presidential race. Among Democrats, Pete Buttigieg leads with a 25%, followed by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez at 17%. Among Republicans, Vice President J.D. Vance stands at 38%, with just 2 points ahead of Secretary of State Marco Rubio at 36%. Voter enthusiasm high ahead of September 8th primary. Voter enthusiasm appears high with New Hampshire September 8th primary approaching. The Saint Anselm poll found 87% of respondents say they're extremely likely to vote, while another 9% say they're likely to cast a ballot. New Hampshire state primary is scheduled for Tuesday, September 8th. New Hampshire firefighters endorse Stefany Shaheen. The professional firefighters of New Hampshire are endorsing Stefany Shaheen in the 1st Congressional District Democratic primary. Union leaders cited Shaheen's record of supporting firefighters and public employees, including during her time on the Portsmouth City Council. The organization also praised fellow Democratic candidate Chelsea Barrett for her support of unions and working people. Firefighters criticized Spangenberg endorsement of Sullivan. The firefighters union is also criticizing Virginia Governor Abigail Spangenberg's endorsement of Maura Sullivan. Union leaders pointed to Spangenberger's veto of legislation in Virginia that would have expanded collective bargaining rights for firefighters and other public employees. The union says it would oppose future national political effects by Spangenberger unless she takes action on collective bargaining rights. And that's a look at some of the top stories making news across the Granite State in politics. Thank you for tuning in for this week's edition of Total New Hampshire on WRMK News 12. I'm Riley King. I'll see you next Sunday for another edition of Total New Hampshire. Have a great week and bye for now.